what I want to do, we've got the festive jumper ready. We're going to go for this, and we're going to enjoy painting a Christmassy scene. So do stick around for the next 30 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer than that, depends how it goes. What we've actually got here is a sheet of watercolour paper with a sketch of a robin. Yes, I've sketched robin in right here, and I'll give you a little bit of guidance on how to sketch it in as well. So if I just grab a sneaky scrap piece of paper here. So I'm working on quite a large sheet of paper. I've got a little scrap piece of paper here, and I'll just very quickly show you how I sketch the robin in. I've done it to save time, basically. And this is the case for all birds, basically. So you start off with quite a large egg shape and then a small egg shape on the top. Notice the smaller egg shape is a little bit off to the right. And then you turn that into the main body. Now it's important that you come down the back there. Yeah, you go underneath. Now I'm doing this quickly. That goes into the tail feathers. You get the gist. You put the markings on where the red breast is. Now this is an English robin. Someone did say to me, why are robins associated with Christmas? Well, it's something to do with the post, isn't it? Something. The original Victorian postmen were called robins because of the red jackets. Something on those lines. But this logic of using oval shapes, you can see those oval shapes internally there, then you put the legs in and so on. So that's a little bit of a rough guidance. Now, if you are doing a virtual workshop with me at any point in the future, including the one that's coming up this Sunday, here's the information, Sunday the 10th of December. There's one pretty much every weekend. This particular one, I'll guide you through the sketch in a similar way. These are yours to keep forever. This is a special festive one, so do make sure you get your bookings in for that one. But that is that. Materials-wise, I've got a bit of a collection of colours hanging around here. I'm going to be using various colours throughout, obviously. These are all my own brand of paints. I've got some natural violet here. I've got some natural red over here. Look, natural red. We've got some natural grey. You could do this with 3 primary colours, and that would not be a problem to do that. We've also got the likes of natural white here. We've got some cadmium red. We're painting a robin, so we need some cadmium red. Pop a little bit on there, which is a very traditional colour. Got plenty of water, 3 brushes, large, medium, small Matthew Palmer Super Point. And without further ado, we're going to pick up the big brush here. And what we're going to do is wet the entire page, okay? So I want to wet the sheet with that big brush a couple of times when I get a bit of a misty background in here. We'll make it look as wintry and as festive as we can. But I thought we'd do an animal. It's been a while since I've painted an animal on here, so do enjoy. This is a big brush. It's a Matthew Palmer large Super Point, which is roughly a 20, roughly a size 20 brush, okay? So plenty of water going on. Couple of coats with a big brush. I think it's probably better to use a smallish brush for putting the paint on. So I've got a size 10, got some kitchen paper here as well. It's good to tap off the excess on the kitchen paper. And I want to put some red on first. This is a darker red, it's called natural red. We'll take some of that. And literally, we're going to twist this red in the background, make it look like a bit of an evening. Doesn't matter if a bit of this creeps over the top of the picture of the, or the sketch of the robin. Just get that red on. Get that red on the background there. The brush is flat to the paper. I'm working pretty quickly here. Very different to how I'd work on a workshop, so do bear that in mind, yeah? So we'll let the paint just spread. Let it just do its thing. And then we'll clean the brush again. And this time we're going to introduce a little bit of the violet into the mix. So it's violet and red together, which makes like purple basically. Like I say, you can quite happily do this entire thing with just primary colours. Wouldn't be a problem. We'll get some of that in there. Mix it in. Swirl it around. So you've got that sort of misty, atmospheric, out of focus kind of feeling coming through here. We'll get some falling snow on this as well. I think that'd look quite nice. And what we're going to do here, beautiful. What we're going to do there is take some of this stuff, which is table salt, just normal off the shelf, nothing fancy by any means here. A little bit of table salt. I'm actually popping it on the palette there, just to, it's a little bit coming out there. We don't want much, and we'll sprinkle it on the picture around the edges. We'll see what it does. It might lift off some paint. I mean, that's what it does. It absorbs moisture, salt. So, similar to rice. This is just table salt. There's not anything fancy about this. We will see what it does. I have got white paint as a backup plan, but we're going to leave this to do its thing. We're going to leave it to do its job, basically. So we'll put that on there. Now, if you're trying to sketch it in from the sketch I've got here, take a screen grab. Take a capture of this. There's many ways to do a screen grab. You can press on the iPhone, you can press your top volume button and your lock button if you've got a recent-ish iPhone. If you've got something like a Mac computer, you can press Command Shift and 4 and you can draw a little box around it. That'll capture it to your desktop. If you're using a PC, you can press the print screen key and it sticks it on your clipboard, which is good. Now, we'll come back to this. It is going to take a while for the salt to do anything, if it does anything at all. We've got to leave it to have a minute, but we'll get close in and we'll start to chuck some colours on the robin or maybe the post at the bottom. So if we jump back over to the palette, still working with the size 10 brush, what I'm going to do now is use this colour, which is, again, it's part of my range of paints. It's called Natural Brown. If you haven't got Natural Brown, you can mix a brown from orange and blue, or you can mix an orange from primaries and then put blue in it. But I've got that colour there, which is Natural Brown, beautiful sort of earthy colour. I'm going to use that later on. And the salt is starting to do something. You can just about make that out there, can't you? So size 10 brush, and now you probably realise that we've got some snow on there. So just being a bit careful to paint around this old post, as it were. I'm going to make it look as though it's a bit frosty and everything like that. Rotate the board. The paper is damp, which is fine. Bring it down. Beautiful. So imagine that's a little bit of a post, an old post. It's nice that the paper is damp. If I dry the brush off and splay it out a little bit, we can actually go in and drag it down. Now, if you're working yourself on this, there's no rush, you know, to do this. We'll take some natural grey, which is a good strong shadow colour. You can mix a grey by mixing blue with red to make purple and add a yellow. That's how you can make it. But natural grey is such a useful colour, very thick colour. I'm going to tickle this underneath the grey, or matron. Bring it down. Can't go wrong, can you? Underneath the foot there, just bring it in, down that edge. Now, again, it's all damp. Look at that snow. It's come out lovely, hasn't it? Beautiful, beautiful. Bring it down. Can't go wrong, can you? Just imagine this is the little bit of the top of a fence post. I was driving locally to here a few days ago, and there was a kestrel perched on the post, and by the time I panicked and got my camera, it flew off. But it was lovely. It was lovely to see. So, and it had snow on it as well, because it snowed here last week, which was nice over the weekend. So there we have that, and you can see that little bit of shape starting to form now. Early stages, early days. Stay with us. It'll grow on you. It'll improve with age. That salt is working beautiful on that background. You can see it looks stunning. We're going to work on the actual bird next. I just want to make sure there's no salt on the back of the bird. Push that away. It's best to get rid of the salt once it's dry. Just give that a bit of a brush. Brush your bird. Super. Okay. I mean, ideally what you do is you get the hairdryer out, carefully of course, doesn't really matter, because you just got to work while it's wet. We're going to use the natural brown again, but this time mix it with a little bit of this sandy yellow, which is actually called natural yellow. Just makes the colour a little bit lighter. All the colours are available on that website right there, or the W's watercolour.tv. So I've made like a sort of a sandy brown colour-ish. What we'll do here with that colour is we'll put a bit more of that yellow in there actually. We'll work along the top of the head, following the shape. The paper is almost dry at this point. Still got the salt on, well that'll just disappear once it dries. Straight down into tail feathers, son. Stick it in there, go on. Put it there. Working close to the pencil line, which is where the red comes in. We'll get to that, that'll grow on you. Bring it in. Around the shoulder of the wing. All this will evolve. The sketch is important. This is an Australian robin. What? Bring it over. And then just fill it in. Now at that stage, we've got the base colour. Wants a little bit of interest in there, but before we do any interest, we're going to clean the brush. The brush I'm using is a Matthew Palmer Super Point, the medium size one, which is actually about a size 10. I've cleaned it, I've wiped it dry. It's a bit moist. Is it me or is it moist? And we're going to tickle edge of the actual brown. Feather it, eh? For the feathering fans amongst us. There we go. Bit of a tickle. Clean the brush again. Wipe it pretty much bone dry. Just allow that colour to fade in to those areas. Looking nice. It's still a little bit damp, but it's kind of getting there. Time to change brushes. Like, I'm excited. Ew, excited. I'm changing brushes. We're going for this one, which is the small Super Point. You can just see it there, small. It's a beautiful pointy brush, as you can possibly make out on the camera there, if it decides to focus. We're going to use some grey here. Good strong bit of natural grey. Beautiful on the colour grey there. Again, you can mix it from your primary colours. If you're thinking about doing a virtual workshop like the one this Sunday, the 10th of December, there's one pretty much every single weekend. Just remember, you don't need fancy colours. All you need is 3 basic colours. You want red, yellow and blue. Remember, there's one this Sunday the 10th. But have a look on the website. All the W's, I'm talking while this is drying. All the W's watercolour.tv. Here is the website. If we go to the homepage, right at the top of the homepage of Watercolour TV is the big flashy button that says Workshop 10th of December. Whatever date's on that button, that's the upcoming one to the date you're watching this actual video. So make sure you get booked in. Now, Watercolour TV members do get 10% off. You've got to enter your code, so do make sure you enjoy that. What can you get for 10 quid in this world? Very little, Palmer. Very little. Not even a coffee. At the side of M1, living life to full. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Natural grey. Along the back of the head. We'll soften that in. Underneath the tail. Down the shoulder. A few lines here and there. Clean brush. Wipe it dry. You've got to paint a robin at Christmas. It's just a law. They should make it the law that you've got to paint a robin at Christmas. So that's put a little bit of tonal work. You can just about make it out. Let's get the red in place next. We're itching for the red, aren't we? But just before we do, I want to use the grey, which is here. Size 6 brush. I'm going to go up here under that belly, just down here. Clean brush, a couple of quick wipes on tissue, and then flick that up into the white undercarriage, the fluffy down feathers of the robin. It's not going to be perfectly white, normally a little bit tatty, aren't they? Put that little shadow under there and you can see the shape of the bird coming through. Let's get the red in place next. Now I did mention the red, I'm going to use a cadmium red. Now the reason I use cadmium is if you look online at sort of the UK robins, they tend to be a slight orangey colour. So here we've got some natural, some cadmium red, which is quite orangey. That'd be ideal. It's tempting just to drop a little bit of yellow in it as well, just a touch. It's not really a bright red. It's like a red squirrel, not really red, if we're being honest. It's got that orangey sort of tinge to it. Beautiful. So we'll get that in there. I'll come in a bit closer. We are sort of zooming in live as we're doing this. We're not going to edit any of this out because I like people to see the whole thing as it happened. And then it's still a little bit damp. It's not bad though. We'll come up towards that grey. It doesn't matter that it's going to interfere with the grey. Kind of want it to anyway. This is cadmium red with a little bit of yellow in it. Natural yellow light is what I use. Any primary colour would be fine. Bring it around the eye. Working quite faithfully around the eye. Now I'm working at demo speed here, which is my own little pace. Just bear in mind that if you're thinking, well, this is a bit fast for me, workshops are not at this pace. They're steady. I'm sure there's a lot of people here in the chat that can sort of back me up on that and say that we do have loads of time to work. There's no rush on them. And if you've always wanted to have a go at painting, there's no time like the present. So do make sure you check those out. Beautiful. Block that in, and then what we'll do, once that's in place, you can see where we're going with this. We'll clean the brush really well on the tissue there, and just want to ever so gently brush the edge in so the red line kind of fades in a little bit into the browns, just a touch, but you've still got that definite edge of the orange coming in, orangey red colour. Beautiful. There you go. Nice. So you can see how that's shaping up. Now, while that's having a bit of time to dry, we are going to put obviously shadows and things on this, but we need to be putting in a little bit of work on the snow. So I've got here the violet that I used in the background still with the number 6 brush. Wipe it on the tissue a little bit because I want to just get the impression as though that's got a bit of snow. It's a bit of an evening scene, I think, and reason is because I wanted to see the snow, and that's quite important to me. So I'll bring that across. So I've gone for quite rich colours, and I'll be honest, after this I do want this to dry off a little minute, so I can't really do much more until things are starting to dry. There you go. Look how that has sort of sat on there now. Lots of detail, lots of shadows to come. But I want to reach over to the other side at studio, and I've got a hairdryer. I've got a heat gun just over here, hiding away near the pinball machine. Yes, here we go. So this is the heat gun. The sound will go off, so I'll give you a Christmas joke, but you've got to be able to lip read. You've got to be able to lip read to do this one while it's drying off, because the audio cuts off. It treats it as noise. It's a bit dodgy, this. And that was definitely like watching paint dry. It's all dry though, so that's great, because now we can work on all these lovely shadows and bits and pieces and get all them lovely colours and things into play. That's what this needs, so let's get back to it. Let's get back to it. Shadows in detail, looking forward to this bit. We've got the grey here, as always. Fairly strong for the grey, to be honest. Natural grey, beautiful, beautiful. We'll start off on the post, I think. Get some, a dad joke. Yes, it was definitely a dad joke, that. Love that joke where the snowman goes to the greengrocer's. He's been to pick his nose. You know, just appeals to me, the dad joke with the dad jumper. Cracker jokes, that's what they are, aren't they? Cracker jokes. Now, we're working quite precisely underneath the beat of the robin here. Now, if you want to follow me on Facebook, folks, if you're new to me, we've got a little group on Facebook, Matthew Palmer's Watercolour Group. Make sure you check it out. Great place to keep an eye on what's happening in the world of watercolour, as well as what people are up to. I guess a lot of people watching this live are actually already a member of that group. But if you're not, just jump onto Facebook. Face it, you can do a little search for Matthew Palmer's Watercolour Group. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Loads and loads of content on the channel as well to enjoy. That looks really effective, that, don't it? You know, we've brought that shadow in. I want to use a little bit of that grey just to get a couple of shadows on the snow as well, just in a couple of little spots, just to give it some darkness. Make it look as though it's got a bit of shadow on there. Because remember, we used violet to start with, but adding that little bit of grey just helps things along. Natural grey, so important, really useful colour to have. Don't be afraid of the darkness with grey. We'll get close into the head of Robin. You can see the detail there, beautiful. Nice strong colour. If you rotate your brush over the kitchen paper, you can make it look a little bit more pointy. There you go. Take that there. So I don't put my hand on what I've just painted. Get the eye in. Quite large on a robin. Of course, leaving a little highlight. I've just rinsed the brush there. Nice strong bit of colour. Don't be afraid. That is really black on the eye of the robin. Beautiful. Probably make it darker a bit later, actually. We'll get the beak in next. So I'll put that in. Go dark underneath. And a dark line across the top, the bridge, coming down into the red. Clean the brush, wipe it pretty much dry. Fill the bottom in with the dampness. The top just softens down. If I dry the brush off, little tiny flicks of colour just around the beak and around the eye as well. A little bit of shadow. You can see that, just a little bit of a tickle around the edge there. Same across the top as well, and around where the red blends into the brown feathers. There's a bit of shadow. You've got to be quite brave when you do this, and don't be afraid about putting a shadow coming down here as well. Now the red's all nice and dry. To me, that's quite important. I've just got a bit of water on there just to encourage that to soften out. Come back a bit with the camera. There you go. So you can see that detail starting to come. That same grey is going to feature quite heavily, quite strong now in the actual wing area. There's an essential shadow that we need to do down here, which separates the wing into that tail feather. That's an important one. We'll turn this round here. We've also got one that comes down here. Right down under that wing. Get a bit of water. And brush it into the white feathers. So it should give the impression as though the wing is got the shadow. This piece here wants blending in as well. So for the first time, you can see that wing. I do want to get that really dark down there. I'm not afraid to go in a little bit deeper. It's beautiful, that shadow there. And look how it starts to separate things up. Obviously we'll get to the legs soon as well. There's a bit of darkness coming down here as well in the shoulder. The robin. A few little flicks. I mean, bear in mind if you're doing this for a Christmas card or something, you'd want to be doing it fairly quickly. Wouldn't be spending too much time on painting it, but you can put as much detail as you want here, feather-wise. But it just gives a bit of markings, don't it, to it, which is quite nice. And if you get a dry brush, which is actually taking some paint off, make your brush a bit flat, it's always good to put some texture, even around here as well, over the red as well. This spiky bristle with a grey colour is quite important to get the shadow in. There's a lovely bit of dark on the tips normally of the tail feathers. It just kind of sneaks underneath, a little bit of shadow. You can just kind of see slightly underneath. Yeah, just a little bit of marking on the feather. Takes the blank part of the picture out. Some L shapes here. The top section of the wing. And then you get these beautiful lines coming down. Little ridges, basically. Perfect. Okay, let's get the first part of these legs in. A slightly warmer colour actually, so I'm going to use the grey with a bit of the brown mix. We've got the brown next door to it, so we'll get those colours together. That should do the job. A warmer grey, still using this size 6 brush. We've got the one here which just kind of disappears into the snow, and this one's got a little bit more detail in. So I've left a light area. Reason for that, I want to use water. I'm working on quite a large sheet of paper here. It's actually it's quarter imperial, the paper I'm using, but any size paper will do the job. So in inches, this is about 15 by 11 inch, something like that, roughly. So it's quite a big sheet of paper. It's actually Matthew Palmer's Watercolour own brand paper. It's a lovely cotton paper that's made in France. Beautiful surface to work on. I want to get some detail on these legs, little bits of few shadows, little bits of rings and things like that. And then you've got just a slight impression of the claws, I think. They are pretty vicious on robins. It's a good job that these things aren't aggressive, are they? Because they take your eyes out, they would. Look at them. Huge. But they are big. Robins are quite small, at least these sort of English ones, which the beautiful bursting colour that you see around in the winter months here in the UK. So a flash of red, put some shadows in that edge to make it look as though you've got a little bit of a drop. I want to put some white paint on this as well. I want to make this have a little bit more detail, you see. So we'll come down here, clean brush, few taps on tissue, give it a soften. That's just giving like the top ledge, if you like. It's the top ledge of the little post. A bit more detail up here. Very subtle little bits of dry brush in this red. Around the eye. Even in the brown as well. Just any bland areas, just get that very dry brush, a little bit of colour on and flick it, and it'll just give a little bit of texture to it, which will work really well. Beautiful that. Coming down here a little bit as well. Come back with the camera. Look at that texture we've created. It looks nice, don't it? Now if we just creep down to this post for the minute, it's kind of tempting down here to do some little lines, some little splits in the post. Little, imagine you get a little bit of the knot in the wood. The cracks in the wood. You get the rings, of course, going this way. That's just using that grey again. Doesn't want much, but just a little bit like that, it just gives a bit of interest, don't it? A shadow would be nice in the violet from the underneath the legs. But where's your light coming from? I don't think it really matters, does it? It kind of probably more coming in this way, so a bit of a cast shadow from those legs, not that you'll see it that much, but it's there. Every little helps. A bit of a tickle. Beautiful, beautiful. This is the bit flat here, so I'm going to get some of that grey again and just brush it in a bit just to take the blandness away. Lovely. And then if we jump over to palette, we have some white paint here, a bit of white and a bit of scrap paper. Shake it just to give it a bit of a squidge. This is my own liquid white, which is beautiful. Stay. Now, because I've got quite a pointy brush here, this will work quite well. I tend to rotate it over the edge. This is going to brighten this thing up no end, so I would encourage you to put the white on. Try and get your brush nice and pointy with the white. And little bits of white paint here and there. You can make the white in the eye a little bit more obvious. I always think a little bit of white just around the underneath of the eye gives it character as well. Just a touch, just a touch. you get a thin white line that comes across the middle of the beak and just goes into the head a little bit, just a smidgen, just a touch of that there. A couple of little light flicks on the tips of some of these wings. We can blend these in if we need to as well. It's useful to have a kitchen paper at hand to mould the brush, make the brush more pointy, should you need to. This will take away the blandness from it. I'll soften these in a minute. Comes lovely down the edge of the wing there as well. Look. It'll make it really have depth. I'll soften all this in a minute, so do bear with us while we do this. A little bit in there. The legs where it goes into the body. Even just a thin little smidge of highlight on the claw there. And any little bits of white that you want to put on the edge of the snow to make it look a bit more snowy. You could put some little bits of, I suppose, almost little icicles in a way. Just a few little very faint impressions of white. Perfect. Bit of dry brush on the edge. And then if you get water, get some water on the job. And then you can come back to these little bits on the wings and you can brush them in. Attach it to the actual. This is just basically just water here I'm using. A little bit down there, look as well. Just coming into the. Almost like a little bit of a frosty kind of vibe to it. I mean, I like the background as it is, but it's tempting maybe to put a bit of snow on. If I get some dry brush, I could put some little highlights in the red part of the bird as well. It's a really effective way of creating little highlights with a bit of dry brush. Little bits and pieces. Quite a detailed looking bird now, and the white really sets it off well, so do make sure you put some white in. And I kind of think I want to do some little, let's make it even more festive by putting some falling snow on. Obviously they'd be quite large, wouldn't they, if there was coming down. So a nice big chunky blob of white paint on the brush there, that. Get a definite falling snow effect. And them little bits of white paint just totally change the whole thing, don't they? I hope you agree. I really do. Just give it contrast and it makes the claws stand out. You can see the claws in the picture. You can see the little bits of detail in there. Really effective. I'll splodge that bit of white, so we'll get rid of that one. I went in with a hand, a bit excited. But there we go. There we have a robin perched on a post, wooden post. Thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. It was a pleasure to do, and it's made for rather a nice festive watercolour. And of course, these vignettes always look nice with a good signature. Now, do make sure you check out the virtual workshops. Remember, we've got one coming up this weekend, Sunday the 10th. There's one pretty much every weekend. We're painting a festive scene, children building a snowman in a beautiful snow scene in watercolours. Sunday the 10th of December, but there's one pretty much every single weekend. We are taking a break after the 17th, so we've got one coming up on the 10th, as you can see here. 3 colours, 3 brushes. You can watch live at any time. It's yours to keep forever. And then, of course, we've got one that's also coming up on the 17th of December as well. So do make sure you get yourself booked into that one. Just go to the website, click workshops, click on live virtual watercolour workshops. The 17th of December is going to be a lovely one, a very Christmassy one. We're going to paint Santa's sleigh over a night sky with foreground Christmas trees and beautiful wintry landscape. Again, 3 colours, 3 brushes. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. So do check them out online. Here's the picture again. So thank you for watching. If you're watching it on YouTube, do make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's get one final close-up look at the bird. There you go. Lovely levels of detail for you today. Have a great Christmas, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.